Good evening, folks. You're back on another edition of Real Talk with the I-12 GIA group. Got a whole bunch of stuff going on tonight. We're going to cover several Black Swan events and just an assortment of goodies. And we have the Nomad back again, so it's going to be him, my partner Rennie, Night Train over there, Night Wreck, or Night, whatever the hell you are, Train Wreck, and myself, Fog, which, as you all know, stands for fucking old guy. All right, so we're going to talk about Black Swan events based on everything that's going on right now. And the Black Swan theory is a concept that describes rare, unpredictable events that have a major impact on society, politics, and the economy. It comes from a 17th century European discovery of black swans in Australia, which were previously thought to be non-existent. So keeping that in mind, we're going to go ahead and start off with the activity with the Israelis from yesterday. And probably the best one to open that one up will be Nomad. What can you tell us about what's happening there?
Well, what's happening in the media is not what's happening on the ground or elsewhere.
Say that every bit of weather is manipulated and controlled.
Yeah, the one we're talking about is the weather patterns that you send in along with that.
Yeah, I get it. We're live right now, so just don't worry about that right now. I don't know where the one. All right, that was at the end, not at the beginning. All right, okay, folks. Technical difficulties here. Disregard that. We're going to start with weather patterns and those kind of issues, and we'll figure it out from there. We'll save Israel for last. Here's a short video. Okay. There's a lot of stuff going on with weather patterns and cloud or weather modification and etc. There's a lot of people that are saying this did never happen. There's no such thing. The government can't modify the weather. They managed to create a hurricane, but only in a small, tiny amount, kind of like the lab-created black holes. Well, in 2003, somebody applied for a patent about how to modify these devices, and the government's been doing weather modifications since Vietnam, and that was used extensively there. So I think we have a couple of videos on that, so we're going to run those real quick.
Say that every bit of weather is manipulated and controlled, it means that they have the capability of doing this, and it's right in your face. Now, I can't say for sure that Hurricane Helene was controlled by this type of technology, but it certainly looked like it was, and it certainly did epic, record-breaking damage that we have not seen in any of our lifetimes. So this will come down to you making your own conclusions and taking the data and making your own educated decisions on what you're seeing. We are in a place in history where it's almost impossible to be able to trust our own media or government, and I don't need to go over explanations on why that is. So now that we have all these steps in place, think about the situation as a whole. This wild hurricane comes barreling towards Florida, and we suspected that once this thing got close to land, it would rapidly intensify, and that's exactly what it did. And in my opinion, the reason that happened is because once it got close enough to our NEXRAD radar towers, it was then able to be influenced, as I've shown in many, many videos. All right, now finally, I just want to conclude with this. 1 year ago, almost to the day, as you can see in this article, North Carolina lithium mine to reopen with $90 million Pentagon order to help increase U.S. production. My friends, if this is not screaming to you right now, I don't know what else can. Just take a look at how much lithium we've used year to year up to 2024, and then once again ask yourself, what are the chances that this flood takes place in the biggest spot in the United States that we can even mine this stuff? My friends, the information's there. It's been there, and if you don't go check it out now, it might not be there forever. I appreciate you all. I'm praying for every single person affected by this storm. What we are seeing out there is absolute tragedy, and it seriously makes my heart break. All right, everyone, until the next video, I will talk to you all very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, what do you guys think about this? Is this just a big conspiracy theory, or is something like this actually possible?
Well, I could answer that with a question.
Okay.
I got a question. Most hurricanes usually die after they hit landfall. They lose their strength. Hurricanes, well, as long as I've been around, it's been preached to me through the weather mediums that hurricanes get their strength from the warm water. How does a storm intensify? How does a hurricane intensify over landfall to the magnitude that it did to cause the damage that it did?
especially over mountains, because that's supposed to break them up.
Exactly.
You got any thoughts on that, Hog or Nomad?
I think it's a combination of if we can weaponize things we didn't think were possible 40, 50 years ago, and we have AI particularly involved in everything right now. I'm sure stuff that was once beyond human capability, now with AI, things are uniquely possible. The second instance being they had enough notice of this thing coming. So it's interesting how NOAA gave out a very, very dynamic prediction. They normally don't do so. They normally don't say it's going to go from a Cat 2 to a Cat 3. Excuse me. This thing intensified, as Rene said, really quickly. And they were able to predict that it will hit as a Cat 4 a day and a half before it actually hit landfall. Mm-hmm. So that was unusual. I was in the middle of Hurricane Michael, which was a Cat 5 in the Florida Panhandle. And I can tell you something. I've been in combat and I never saw destruction like such. But Cat 5 was different. This seems to have a mind of its own. That's all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm. Trainwreck?
I got two questions. The first question that I have is what's the connection between this storm and the mines itself? I get it. You know, we talked about the HAARP stuff and how that can be used with weather control. But how is the mine suddenly, you know, the way the report reads is there might be a connection between the storm going over the mines. That's the first thing. Second thing I got a question on is the way they rate these hurricanes, the categories, is by the amount of damage that they do, not necessarily by wind speeds. That's my understanding of it, right? Correct. And yet, I'm being told now that this is the most damage that we've ever had from a hurricane, and yet it's still a Cat 4. It's not a Cat 5. How do we get there?
Yeah, the theory on the mine issue came up. It's been going on for a couple of years now. There's a corporation that wants to open an open pit lithium mine in that area of North Carolina, around the Asheville area, because apparently it has one of the largest lithium concentrations in the world is under those mountains there, and under the Great Smokies. Of course, well, as you can expect, they're getting massive pushback from the population. They don't want this thing in there, and in these beautiful mountains and so forth. Plus, they're going to be bringing ore in from Guyana to process at that facility.
Are they suggesting though that somehow the mines are affecting the storms?
No. What the suggestion is, they're getting so much pushback from the populace and so many problems that they're just going to do the same thing they did in Maui, right? They're going to create this natural disaster and then move in and just either have the government claim the property or try to sell or whatever. These people there are already getting phone calls and text messages from land development companies asking if they're ready to sell yet. Okay. So that's the issue.
And then how are we only considering this a Cat 4 and not a Cat 5 when they're saying it's caused more damage?
Well, it's the flooding. The flooding is what the issue. They're calling it a 1,000-year flood. Rennie?
Yeah, to Nomad's point and to your point, I heard the same thing. They were already getting calls from groups looking to buy that land. But that being said, the point Nomad made earlier, I read an article back in the 1920s. The U.S. government, there was a hurricane out in the middle of the Atlantic, and the government thought it was the perfect opportunity to experiment with steering storms. They sprinkled it with dry ice, and it actually turned from the path it was on towards the coast of the continental United States, and it hit the same Georgia area. Did a tremendous amount of damage back then, too. This has been going on for a long, long time. And if you notice, I'm going to bring it up. If you notice, not one politician has used the phrase climate change.
Yeah, right. Nomad, you had something to say?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. First and foremost, I used to blow shit up for a living. So if you mix lithium with water, it goes on fire. That's the first thing, right? Second thing is, interestingly enough, you mentioned Guyana. Very interesting. People may have forgotten. In very recent times, probably in less than the last 2 months, Guyana and Venezuela are almost at a conflict over mining, and the U.S. has backed a territorial claim by Guyana over Maduro's Venezuela in relation to mining. So that may have a connection. And the last thing is, in particular, the fastest way to depopulate an area is to have a disaster.
Mhm.
So it's a quickest way of moving in. I remember with Cat 5, they hit an Air Force base about 10 miles west of Mexico Beach, which was the ground zero
Mhm.
for Hurricane Michael. That devastated completely a community. 2 houses out of a number of hundreds of houses survived. But interestingly enough, it destroyed Tyndall Air Force Base. Tyndall Air Force Base was the home of the not-so-secret U.S. military space program, but also was the first Air Force base that our F-22s and 35s came off and struck ISIS with. So if you can destroy an Air Force base, that whole area where that Hurricane Michael came in was previously used as the practice for the D-Day landings. So it's sparsely populated. And when the hurricane came in, officially 20-something people are missing. But there's over 1,000 people missing because all the rubberneckers came down from the southern U.S. to see the hurricane. And guess where they went? Back towards Cuba. So the thing is, the quickest way to depopulate an area and to drive down property values and create the need to sell is a natural disaster. So I'm very curious as to how this will come up. And lastly, in Dubai, they use drones to ionize the air to form water crystals to create water. Less than 4 inches of rain falls annually in Dubai. Now they can basically program when the weather comes in because they need the weather to maintain some of the architectural landscape in some of these high-rise and very affluent resorts that they have. Just
Didn't they just have some massive flooding in Dubai here a while back for that reason?
Yes, and
You
they
know,
weren't
like-
equipped for it. Weren't equipped
Yeah.
for it at all.
Yeah, it took out the airport and all kinds of stuff. All right, let's see what this next video here we have up here and see what these guys have to say. Well, if I can get it loaded.
Did you know that the United States has multiple patents on how to steer and control hurricanes and tornadoes? Yes, this is very real and it's backed by sources, as well as our own NOAA website, which discusses weather manipulation and what steps you or I would have to take in order to do our own weather manipulation. My friends, this is no joke. Many people believe that weather manipulation was used for Hurricane Helene, then somehow coincidentally stalled over the rare lithium-producing towns of Western and North Carolina, which is the exact location of the largest lithium deposit we have in the United States. Now, something to keep in mind while moving forward, ever since we left Afghanistan, we have lost the ability to mine lithium there, where most of it used to come from. Now we are stuck having to fill this insane demand we have for this lithium right here in the United States. Once again, the largest deposit being right over the towns that just got completely destroyed by this hurricane. All right, so before I tie this all up with this lithium situation, this video you're looking at right now went super viral over the last few days. We have over 3 million views on this clip here, where we are talking about these weird anomalies that were taking place right before landfall of Hurricane Helene. There's a lot of controversy about what's going on here, but these things pointed directly to where we saw landfall. Not only that, but we saw some weird scalar-looking beams in there, a lot of weird stuff that we were breaking down, and it's causing a lot of talk about this situation, which is the point here. We've already established that weather manipulation exists, but I want you to take a look at this website from 2007, my friends. That's 17 years ago, and it came out from the scientist.
Yeah, Rennie, you got something?
Yeah, this thought just popped into my head. Do you think any of this has to do with backdooring nuclear proliferation treaties? In other words,
How
is
does that
this the
track?
new nuclear war that we got to deal with?
Well, yeah, if you think of where the world's electronics comes from and where the precious metals that we have are East Africa, the Chinese are all over that like a
All
rash.
driven by lithium.
Well, lithium in particular is lithium, like silver, is now a prized commodity. So if you're going to have a future conflict with China, where everything from our iPhones to whatever we have in Walmart is on a shelf, you need to have your own homegrown supply of everything. So there's a strategic use to something like that happening. However, the timing of such events, if you're mentioning that, interesting enough, the sighting of NASA and SpaceX, NASA going back when it was built, was deliberately put on the northeast coast of Florida so to avoid such weather events. Interestingly enough, this thing steered away from that.
Yeah.
It didn't come anywhere near it. It was wider than Florida,
Mm-hmm.
but it never went near strategic facilities.
Yeah.
The Pentagon just kicked out a $90 million contract to this company for production of lithium. The reason for that, you ask, why does the Department of Defense need so much lithium? Well, it's Biden's push to make the military completely EV by 2030 or whatever the hell that idiot thinks he's going to try to do. So that is the motive. Let's finish this up and then we'll move on to the next one.
Closer to steering hurricanes. Now, in this article, they explain how they are using technology in order to control, manipulate, and steer these types of storms, including tornadoes. So when you take things like this and you also add these patents that have been out for decades.
And then I think that's going to be the end of this one. I don't know, fellas. I hate going down conspiracy rabbit holes like this, conspiracy theory rabbit holes, but that's hence the Black Swan event. It's improbable things have happened. The last 4 years, pretty much everything that was said to be a conspiracy theory has turned out to be factual. Trainwreck?
Yeah, I don't think when you start stacking demonstrative factors together and start connecting them, you get way away from actual conspiracy theories. When you start connecting dots like this, HAARP with everything else that we're talking about, you move away from conspiracy theory into what's probably really happening. Use some constructive thinking. That'd be my thought.
Yeah, let's go ahead and stay on this for just a minute. What do you guys think of the response? The government's response.
What response?
Exactly.
Well,
the camel clothes showed up there today for a photo op. Biden hasn't been seen. The only one that's been substantive is Donald Trump.
Well, let me add to that. With emergency management, and they probably already had this set up, right? But before the feds can move in to do anything, the state has to absorb all its resources. And basically they no longer can react to it before the federal government can move in. Right now, if you're talking about Camel Toe actually going down there, yeah, I agree. She's way late and $1 short. Trump was on it. But as far as the federal government moving in with their assets to help, the state has to absorb all its resources first before they can ask help from above. That would, so I don't know if that's hitting on where you guys are going, but
No, I mean, it was just a complete and utter failure for FEMA and for the Biden administration in general. They were not there when they needed to be. Whether the estate's using there's also an issue with the governor of North Carolina. See, there's a lot of the dynamic in that area. Okay, well, as you were asking earlier, Trainwreck, about the flood versus the hurricane issue. They're calling this 1,000-year flood in that area, which is very possible. That part of North Carolina and South Carolina too, and into Georgia, it's all very mountainous, a lot of canyons, a lot of things going on there, and there's a lot of rivers and lakes and so forth. They had it was something like I'm guessing here, I forgot what the exact number is, but it's like 300 trillion gallons of rain was expanded on this area within a very short period of time, and which is what caused all the flooding. Asheville is a seriously blue area. That was one of when Obama was president. That was one of his favorite cities, and he actually thought about moving there for a while. and living in Asheville. That he's going to make that like an extra White House or whatever.
It's too fucking bad he didn't.
Well, yeah, exactly. There's some other stuff going on in that too. So that's kind of what the dynamic is. So the state government failed. Local government tried to pick up the pieces, but didn't get very far. Something else that pissed me off that I found out about today, I guess now Mayorkas is saying, well, there's just no more money left in FEMA, to deal with this. We're not prepared to deal with the next hurricanes, of which is already one setting up for that, because we have no money left. Well, one of the reasons they have no money left is because they gave NGOs and various other organizations $941 billion in fiscal year 23 and 24 to house illegal aliens. And I would love to see where all that money went. So the next big hurricane, we're screwed. Now, another issue here, another dynamic is a combination between government and private partnership. Elon Musk had applied for and received a grant for Starlink satellite systems, and that it was turned down as soon as he started going more towards Trump and decided that he was more of a conservative and so forth, and quit kissing the Democrats' ass. He started having all these problems. They said, "Well, no, we don't need the Starlink crap right now." That's exactly what's keeping that whole area going right now is Starlinks. Trump sent a bunch of them in. Musk donated a whole bunch of stuff, and they're getting their internet and cell service back up again because of Starlink. So there you have it. People are, I don't know, man. Didn't we have something on, that's more, yeah, that's part of it too. Let me see if I can find it here. Here we go. These guys. There's an issue with truckers, I guess, that are trying to get into this area, all up and down I-40. You're having tires slashed at rest stops. It's been something like 50 trucks so far, I think, for some strange reason or another. Go ahead.
And these creeps have fucking broken into the trucks and stole stuff too.
Yeah. These guys were breaking into buildings and houses and looting. They're in North Carolina and Tennessee. They're all illegals. They've just taken advantage of this entire situation while people are trying to get their lives back together. So it is going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess for a while. A lot of things are coming out that were very unexpected about this. Well, for example, the Biltmore estate, I guess, was pretty well trashed also.
Wiped out, yeah.
Pretty much wiped out, yeah. Asheville, or that whole area is just a mess. Randy, go ahead.
Yeah, the penalties for these pricks should be shot on sight. Okay? That's number one. Number two, I don't understand how Mayorkas can say there's no money left to do anything for American citizens when you just threw out a $980 billion figure. It drives it fucking turning my brain to fucking mush right now, just fucking thinking about it.
Yep.
I watched one of my favorite Christmas movies, Biltmore Christmas. That whole fucking estate, boom, buried under 25 feet of water.
Yep, I know. They're fine. Now, back there again, one of the reasons I wanted to start this with Black Swan events is because of all the weird shit that's coming out right now. Apparently, while they're checking out the Biltmore estate, I guess somewhere deep down in the basement of that place, they found a like an underground swimming pool and gym and all kinds of stuff. And it had all these, part of it was painted black, and I guess it was used for ceremonies and all this satanic nonsense. And there's a lot of theories about that are coming up because of all this also. It's areas in the Biltmore that people have never been into before, I guess.
Can I bring it back to something else? Just bring it back
sir.
A little bit, respectfully.
Please.
Okay, here we are. This is building a dependency within the last 6 to 8 weeks before the last month before the election. If you have a government or an agency which will give you a handout, you have the vote basically capitalized as well. So Rob Emanuel, that famous guy from Chicago, said, never let a good crisis go to waste. And he said, primarily, every crisis gives us an opportunity. So you're looking at these states that are affected. Some of these are actually battleground states in the presidential election. So if you come in with a FEMA handout, you probably have the loyalty of the people receiving the handout. And, you never bite the hand that feeds you type of thing, especially during election time. Second thing is, you're allowing the federal government to have oversight. So your 10th Amendment is completely gone. If you can have a sheriff down here in Florida telling people that your Second Amendment rights have been suspended during a hurricane, imagine what a federal government can do. And then the last thing is the rebuilding of this thing here is going to take as long as the funding is available. So when Mayorkas says there's no more money for hurricanes, that's all very well. But interestingly enough, the Millionaires Playground, Nantucket, is now overrun with instances of violent crime and everything that's going on. So only when it affected a blue state, a very liberal area, did you see some sort of federal response to the immigration crisis. We're going off track a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
that's
here's
right.
the thing. Immigrants matter more, illegals matter more than US citizens or naturalized citizens. That's the message after this event. This is not the first hurricane. It's not the last hurricane. So FEMA's inadequacy and lack of staging is piss poor planning, as we'd say in the military. And from that point of view, this is not a new event. We're still out of the woods yet. Hurricane Michael Cat 5 hit on the 10th of October. We're within that area now. We're in the last month of hurricane season, and there's two more in the Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not out the woods yet. Only when it affects the real effects, which is the vote. If you have no house, you can't vote. You have no interest in voting. So you're going to see an outpouring of federal funds to get people bussed to polling stations. The first thing that they will set up will not be a soup kitchen. It'll be somewhere for you to vote or to cast your vote early. That's what all that matters out of this. Just watch what happens in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Just watch what happens. You can organize a vote faster than you can organize someone to get electricity or a house or a grant to repair something. Just watch what happens.
You're right. And you bring up a valid point too, like Nantucket. Two of the vermin were arrested, illegals, for rape of 2 underage girls on the island of Nantucket. And today, the governor of the late, great Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Muffy Healy, signed an enhanced gun bill banning AR-15 semi-automatic rifles and enhanced penalties and the whole 9 yards. So, yeah, you're right. You're right, Nomad.
Yeah. Trenrick, you made an interesting point there. Lessons learned from Katrina, and we're still making the same mistakes. Well, yeah, speaking of which, there was a police chief somewhere in the panhandle there of Florida that kind of circumvented the Second Amendment and locked down handguns and said he couldn't open carry or do anything. Anybody that was going to use that wanted to use a handgun there, and Governor DeSantis said, "Nah, fuck that. That's not going to happen." So anyway, okay, that that kind of covers the response. It's just a mess. I don't know what they're going to do to straighten this out. It's going to take forever, and it's just getting worse by the day now. You know, they're finding bodies in trees, and from the floods and just all kinds of stuff. So
yeah.
So I don't know. I think we're going to save everything that's going on with Israel to last, because that's going to be our main topic for the evening. And I know that we all have some very strong opinions on those issues. So what do you guys, we're going to go a little off because it's not scripted, but again, it's real talk. So we're going to just jump into the debate. What do you guys think about the debate last night?
Oh, I stayed up and watched the whole thing. So I think J.D. Vance won the thing hands down, but I was watching some clips of Democrat talk shows today, and they said Waltz had it all. So
Wait, I said Waltz, yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. J.D. Vance mopped the floor with him.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, he's about a pathetic individual. Waltz, I mean, I didn't watch all of it. I'm sorry that you had to sit through that whole thing.
Well, the funniest part of the whole thing was him trying to justify him being in Tiananmen Square. I mean, you know, that's like buying an egg roll at your local grocery store, put it in the microwave, and saying it's Chinese food.
Yep.
Well, Renee, that's like saying that you were at September 11th at the towers during September 11th, right? And then years later, saying that you were there. It's just an event you're not going to forget, you know.
Yeah.
And then he wants to come back and say, "Well, I was mistaken." Well, there's certain events that happen in your life. Where were you during the Challenger disaster? Where were you during September 11th? Where were you during the first bombing of World Trade Center? Things like that, right? Tiananmen Square. I'm guessing for the guys that were living back there, that'd be an event you wouldn't forget, right? So this idea that was mistaken, I just don't think it's credible. I think he's a liar. It's just like he lied about some of his other military history. He was a sergeant major when he wasn't a sergeant major, right? There's just another example of a lie, and he's just coming back and saying, I was mistaken.
I think the bar was set so low deliberately that he looked shiny. There's an old saying in the army: it's easy to shine in a sea of shit. And the bottom line is, right, forgive me. So if you're sensitive, screw you. But here's where we're at. Vance had to be the political nemesis of Trump. Trump was fire and brimstone compared to Vance. So Vance is more polished in some aspects compared to Trump. But they're both parts of the same yin and yang from that point of view. As regards the other creature, the Democrat, I refuse to use his name, he basically was the intellectual side of the brain of the single cell organism, Campbell Toe Harris. So you had two parts of the one entity going on. Now, in essence, what happened was everything that Harris couldn't answer, this guy tried to put out there as being the intellectual. And then the second thing is, with Vance, he was so conscious of the fact of not becoming fiery that he basically, in a sense, and I agree with some commentators, including on this program here, that he held back a little bit. He should have pushed more, I would agree. And also, he had an opportunity as well to show something else. People may forget about, I think, as a naturalized citizen, I think VP debates are actually more important at times than presidential candidates. And I tell you why. If something, God forbid, happens to president, this is the stand-in. This is the person who will take over as commander-in-chief. This is the person that will take over running the country. So a VP is at times forgotten about how important it is. Other than the designated survivor, God forbid, during the State of the Union address, that's the only other time somebody becomes more important than the president himself. So POTUS, while POTUS is POTUS what he is, J.D. Vance had the opportunity to show that you've got two multimillionaire businessmen who know how to earn a buck and how to make the country turn around. He didn't go far enough on that. He pandered a little bit and allowed the oxygen in the room to go to the other guy. I think Vance won it intellectually, but unfortunately, the electorate is very stupid. They're dazzled by bullshit and freebies. And so a lot of the essence and a lot of the value of what went on was lost on the audience. I hate to say it. The American voter at times deserves what it gets. Do not make this mistake again.
Yeah, Trainwreck?
Yeah, I agree with what Renee said. I think Vance won. I think he did well, but I think he should have pushed it much farther. But now let me kind of back up on that just one bit. And maybe the reason that he didn't do that and he just remained so calm through the whole thing is maybe that's what they feel that the American people want to see. Not somebody that's so fiery in your face, but somebody that can stay calm. I would have liked to see him just crush the guy, right? But maybe that's what they were trying to show was that, there's only one pirate on this ticket, right? And that's Trump. Mm-hmm. And that the calm side might be Vance. Maybe that's what they were trying to demonstrate. But I would see him crush him.
Respectfully, I will disagree. I will agree with you 90% of it. The 10% I disagree with you is the fact we tried that with Pence, and Pence was still the guy who went against Trump and said, "I'm not signing this piece of paper to question what was already there." The popular vote is not the vote. It's not the vote that wins elections. It's our electoral college. Yeah. So from that perspective, we've forgotten where we've gone off on the tracks. But you're right when you said, if you remember, every debate, one of the first things that they roll out of is an expert on body language. And so the nonsense began. And do you remember they've kept Harris away from everything, so she can't appear more stupid than she naturally is. Second thing is, she had practiced poses. Do you remember this one?
Yeah.
Pure intellectual. So that was it. It was like Hillary Clinton. I'm so tired of being sick and tired. You remember that? Well, that came out of nowhere. And now Kamala Harris did the same thing. She did another sort of a Southern Belle accent. Forgive me. I'm sorry for that accent. It's really bad. But basically, they run the same playbook every year. Vance won to those that matter. But to the general populace, it was irrelevant. Because at the end of the day, in a month's time, they're going to be thinking, hey, what can I get for free?
Mm-hmm.
What can I get with the minimum amount of effort by just turning up and getting what I need? And this is what we're down to right now.
Yeah, Rennie?
So I'm sticking with my original swan song that I've been singing for the last year. We're going to wake up on Wednesday morning in November, and the camel toe and the dancer will have been declared the winners.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, I don't think JD or the dancer swayed anybody. Everybody's mind's already made up. So I don't think Vance was going to change any of Camel Toe's voters' minds, and vice versa. I don't think Walsh was going to change any Trump voters' minds. So yes, JD dominated, but I think that it was all irrelevant and all for naught. We got to look at who could be the future president if something happened to either one of those two. But beyond that, that's almost 2 hours of our time we're never going to get back.
Do you know what's going to? Can I disagree with you, brother? Forgive me for talking the thing. Do you know what's going to decide the election? How much is my mortgage costing next Friday, next payday? How much is a gallon of gas? How much do I have to earn or work overtime in order to pay my mortgage? That's what's going to decide the election.
I'm going to before I go to sleep tonight, I'm going to get on my knees and pray that you're right.
I'm telling you, it's like Clinton said, right? It's the economy, stupid, right?
Yes.
How bad are people suffering? And if it's bad enough, the incumbents are going to lose, right? Because people vote based on the quality of their life, right? They overlook everything else, right? If people are living really well, I feel like they don't give a shit about the border, right? If they're living really well, they don't care if people are coming through the border. That's just my,
So can I link our last topic to this one?
Sure.
If Biden ships in millions of tons of gas out of the National Reserve to assist rebuilding, and some of these are in battleground states, he's going to nationally lower the price of a gallon of gas. And therefore, on the election day, it's all about the economy, stupid, just as you said. Exactly, that's what will happen. He will buy the vote by keeping some more bucks in your pocket on election day. If it costs you less money to drive your car to the polling station, right, you're going to vote for the guy that keeps the money in your pocket. And Trump is the guy who can do that every day, not just on election day.
Yeah.
Hey, before I forget, can I ask one question? It's probably going to come up later, but I'm going to forget if I don't say something now. And do you think that Biden's unwillingness to interfere in the strike that we're going to talk about in a minute, do you think that his unwillingness to interfere in that is because he's pissed off at the way the Democrats pushed him out? And so now this is kind of payback for Harris, right? You pushed me out, so now I'm not going to interfere with this. It's going to piss off the American people. It will affect the economy. And on the day of election, if everything has gone up, you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah. I don't know. Biden is a pretty vindictive son of a bitch, but I'm not, I don't know if he's that smart. In all honesty, what do you think? No, man. I can
Okay.
see the wheels. I can see the wheels
Yeah,
grinding.
I'm burning. Forgive me, fellas. I'm sorry for hogging the program. I don't mean to be
No,
any
no,
means.
no, no. You're fine.
If we're going to use this as a lead into the next topic, it's a very good one. And Trainwreck has put some of the dots together. I've been thinking about this too. Um, the effects on the economy are going to take 1 month, roughly. Okay, which is election day. Today is the 2nd of October. Yeah, 3rd of
That's a good-
October, right?
That's a
So
good
therefore,
point.
we're in 4 weeks. We're in the margin of error. All right, because historically and statistically, it takes 3.5 weeks to 4 weeks for an economy to go down. Number two, I'm going to go into this now in a second. Who owns most or who controls most of the container traffic on the east coast of the U.S.? It's not U.S. owned
Oh
companies.
no, it's
It's
China.
Arab
Arab, yeah.
and Chinese countries. China has Biden in its pocket, and I'm not Wong, sorry, but literally, I'm telling you right now. It's a tough audience here tonight. I said Wong, but basically, right. And Trainwreck is Fu Young to remember, but it's okay. But what I'm saying is, this is going to lead to an opportunity to be the savior. He's going to jump in with his cape and fix everything just within the collective consciousness of the electorate is about 72 hours. After 3 days, news is old news. Okay? They'll rehash. How many times do you see the same crap being replayed after a disaster? The first full day of a disaster is same footage being played over and over and over again. Second day is commentary. Third day, we've reached saturation point, and now we need some new disaster to distract the public, and that's what's going to happen. Something is going to happen on a national scale before election day. God
All right,
forbid.
fellas. Yeah, before we go on, let's take about a 5-minute break, and then when we're going to come back, we're going to jump right in. We're going to continue this discussion, and we're going to jump right into the burning question: is did the team or the dock workers union just shit in their rice bowl? So we'll be back in about. Okay, and we are back, folks. Let's see what we're doing here. All right, we're going to talk about our next subject here, which will be the dock workers strike, and to see what's going on with them. What do you guys? Who wants to start this off? Who thinks this is a good idea?
Call it.
Go ahead, Rennie.
So, bad idea. As a numbers guy, for every day the strike goes on, it's going to take. Nomad brought up a good point before we went on break about the time at length at the time involved. So, for every day the strike goes on, it's going to take 6 days for things to get back to normal. So, today's day 2. So, we're already 12 days away from things being returned to normal if this thing is ever brought under fucking control. Tomorrow is day 3. It'll be 18 fucking days. So the longer it goes, the farther out it goes. So this was a bad thing. Biden should have invoked Taft-Hartley like he has the ability to do and make these fuckers go back to work where they belong. But on the other side of the coin, the union president could have said, hey, how many containers you doing a day? They say 30. You'd say, okay, knock it down to 5, Either way, they're in the driver's seat.
Well,
Either way, they're going to get what they want.
I got to weigh in if you don't mind, right? My personal opinion, I think that there was a time in America where unions were truly needed. I think those days have come and gone because union workers are not suffering, right? The second thing is every one of those union workers, to include the leaders, put their personal interests, 50,000 of them, way over America's interest, right? Because they know what it's going to cost us, right? They know the damage that it's going to do. And yet they're willing to put their own personal interests over the interests of everybody else, right? So here's what I think, right? And I know you guys are going to say, no, you can't do that, but this is what I think we should do, right? First of all, we bring in workers from California that work the ports. We bring workers that work down in Galveston, right? We put them over there. It's cheaper to bed them, feed them, and move them temporarily to the East Coast to deal with the port, right? Than it is to ship all the shipping containers down through the Panama Canal and wrap it back around. So I don't care if we use scabs. I don't care if we use other port workers. But this idea of them controlling America's interest by them going on strike, let me make sure I'm perfectly clear so everybody understands me. They can all go fuck themselves because they're not doing anybody any favors. They're hurting America. They can all go fuck themselves. Let's fire them. Let them get an attorney, get their job back. Fuck them, right? And all right. Now I've said my piece. Right.
Okay, Rennie, go ahead.
So just for the record, haven't studied their proposal. If they get what they're looking for, do you know what their hourly wage is going to be?
Oh, it's some ridiculously high amount.
$69 per hour.
Go ahead, Nomad.
Okay, I have a different take on this, and I agree. If you look at what's happened post-COVID, unions have basically lost it. You see what education, union leadership are politicians. They're representative of anything. If you're a union member, there's a very significant percentage of your membership going to be involved in political grassroots stuff. You see it with the teachers. They ruined education in this country. Teachers are wonderful, but teachers are not superstars. They are not soldiers. They're educators. I have an issue with teachers being put on a pedestal because they've been directly responsible for the eradication of standards in this country. So unions have not been good for education or for the fabric of society, number one. Number two, politics, right? If you are not sure of having your political base covered in this instance, the only grassroots support you can have and muster are unions. But here's the thing. Technology has overtaken what was once traditional. So now automation in the ports is a big issue. Cheaper now to invest in technology than to pay somebody $60+ an hour. Machines don't think, blink, but they also don't vote. Okay, so that's the next thing. Then there's the strategic national interest in this thing here. When a ship ran aground in the Suez Canal, it stopped world trade for about 6 or 7 weeks. When the Houthis started firing stuff in the Gulf of Aden, everyone got together. When piracy affected the east coast of Africa, I was in Basaso in Somalia. The world got together and put together a task force and took the clowns out. Now we have another thing. We have a threat to our national security as a result of the strike, because as long as the workers are outside of the thing, stuff that's in containers is primarily the road network in this country. With Eisenhower was to move population in the event of a nuclear attack, but also to move supplies from point A to point B. A sizable, significant amount of our products in your Walmart, your Dollar Tree, whatever you've got, comes by road. So the knock-on effect on this is going to be huge. But then globally as well, it's the equivalent of COVID. COVID, you couldn't move people, you couldn't do anything. Same with product. It's going to perish, it's going to cost millions of bucks. Last point. 6 Arab companies from the United Arab Emirates control the majority of the ports on the US East Coast. 6 foreign-owned companies owned by one government, which is strategically and has historically been associated with money laundering and all things that are there. The Saudis are as well involved in this. So we've actually given away, since Bush 2 came in, post 9/11, we've allowed basically a soft underbelly to develop, and the unions have capitalized upon that. So apart from the economic side of this, strategic, military, defense-wise, there's a huge issue with this. So the president, whoever or whatever creature it is, has the power under executive action to do something. Mm-hmm. And Reagan did it with the air traffic controllers. The last port strike we had was in 1977, 4 years after the gas crisis, right? When we ran out of gas. This shit's going to hit on Thanksgiving, Christmas. So all of a sudden, the election is over, but the after effects of it are post-election. So the public doesn't realize yet, as Rene said, this is a long-term game strategy here. So before the next president is inaugurated, if it is Trump, he's going to inherit a socially engineered disaster to deal with on his first day in office. This is how I look at stuff. I've been an Intel guy and an SF guy most of my life, and I look at shit a bit different. This is not about the pocket. This is about the State of the Union on the 20th of January. What are we stepping into? And the unions are a way of destructing the fabric and the underbelly. Economically, it affects the country, which affects people's ability to have confidence in government. It affects our military readiness, because military needs supplies too, which comes in by sea. And also, if you block a port up with containers, you also block the response, God forbid, if something goes wrong, from onshore to offshore. This is the equivalent of blockading a port, but the country is the port. So there's a lot more to this at stake than just someone getting their way and $60 plus an hour. I rest my case. The defense rests.
Yeah, Renee, go ahead.
Yeah, comment on what Trainwreck said earlier when he was writing. Teachers think they can parent better than parents. 100% correct. Only because the government allows them to do it. Period. End of story. For no other reason. That's And I was at the market today, and people are already starting to panic buy. You know, instead of taking a deep breath and realizing, hey, wait, toilet paper and paper towels are made here in the United States. They're not sitting in shipping containers. You know, I walked in the store smiling at myself because I said, there people are running out with things that carriage full of paper towels and toilet paper and everything else. I had the presence of mind during COVID to go out and buy a bidet, so I fucking laughed the whole time I was in the supermarket, you know.
Trainwreck, you have something?
Oh, absolutely. I got
Great point.
I got stuff right. I'll start with getting back to unions, brought up education. The union workers have gotten way too big for their britches, right? And they're using, their influence in a way that we should not be allowing, right? And now this is another example of unions abusing their influence, and it's going to cost America billions. Like we said, it's all about what's in their interest, not what's in America's interest. Their unions' time has come and gone. We need to get rid of all of them, right? And this is America. If they don't like their fucking job, get another one, right? So that was the first thing I wanted. The second thing is America started screwing ourselves the moment we started shipping our jobs overseas, right? Teaching the Chinese how to do things and now they know, right? They learned from us, right? We started shipping if we brought all of our industry back to the United States, we wouldn't be worried about having shit shipped in and the impact that it's going to have on our economy. We've done this to ourselves.
Yeah, without a doubt.
For fucking leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And I do think that Biden's going to do this on purpose. I think Biden's refusing to do it. It's a fuck you to Harris for forcing him out.
Yeah, that's possible. I'm not a big union supporter. I am a supporter of collective bargaining, only because it just gives a sense of organization too. I mean, you can't have 50,000 people walk into the boss's office and say, "Hey, we all want raises." There has to be a system. But unions, though, are just as you guys are saying, they're so far outdated now. Nobody's having to work in asbestos-filled rooms for 12 hours, with no kind of personal protection. Nobody's doing a lot of shit that were actually needed, and the union served a purpose. Yeah, they've definitely fucked up. Now, Teamsters, it's going to be interesting. I think we're going to see a war, though, between factions of the unions, though, because the Teamsters now, again, apparently, as of today, have pretty much said to the dock workers, fuck you guys. If it's on a truck, it's getting delivered.
Yeah.
So that's going to be kind of interesting getting in and out of some of these ports, because if the Teamsters union driver shows up to pick up a Connex box that's already loaded and take it, they're going to do that, whether the dock workers union wants them to or not. So that's going to go ahead. Yes.
I tell you, right? The event that will start this will be on social media, because unions don't operate in a vacuum anymore. What's going to happen is, little whatever, she's now a man and she's now a non-binary pineapple, wants her Amazon, and Amazon hasn't arrived. So she went down to Starbucks to get a pumpkin spice coffee or latte, right? And now all of a sudden they can't get that because the shit's stuck on a container on the East Coast. All of a sudden, holy shit, I've gone from 5G Lite to 2G. I can't download. I can't have a latte. I can't go around and have all the trappings of success when you're basically a student living with mom eating egg sandwiches. But I go on. So what's going to happen is the whinging and bitching brigade are going to say, listen, fuck Palestine. I want my Amazon. I want my unicorn so I can be fucking taken seriously. And I want my T-shirt I designed because how dare you use the wrong pronoun? So what's going to happen now is that's what's going to fuck this up. It's going to be the idiots on social media going to say, you better fix this. You fuck my student loan. I want my Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to fix this.
Yeah. I think it's pumpkin spice panties. Yeah, it's pumpkin spice panties is what it
I'm
is.
sorry. I'm so listen, I'm waiting for my clothes to come back into fashion. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen, man. It's gonna happen. I know it. Feel it.
Yeah.
Chad, how do you hold the liquor?
By the ears.
By the ears.
It was a guy from Tent Mountain taught me that.
Yeah, hey, I know at some point
I'll say no more.
At some point, your brown wild whaled corduroy suit is going to come back in style.
Listen, I have patches on my ship waiting to become intellectual. I'm going to do a camel toe pose right now.
Yeah.
Did that work?
Yeah.
But anyway, listen, that's what's going to stop this shit. Is Jeff Bezos said no freaking unions. He broke the unions by creating a demand This is
Yeah.
going to be the same thing. People
Yeah.
don't care.
And
They don't
the only problem
Yeah.
with that is by then the election will have come and gone for whatever damage this is going to cost,
Correct.
right? The billions is it's already going to impact the election. Now, I think Trump's going to win. I have a different opinion on what's going to happen the day after, right?
Right.
And that is all businesses know that business is good when Trump gets in, right? So day one, Trump gets in, it's drill, baby, drill. And I guarantee you, all these companies out there that are involved in the oil, they're ready. They are staged. I'd bet money on it, right? They're waiting for Trump's day one. Just think about what happened last time, right? Day one, Trump got in. Things changed. Stock market went up to crazy high levels it had never been before. So I anticipate a little bit different. Not that I'm right. I mean, I'm just guessing, but I see things a little bit different because when Trump gets in office, businesses are going to be ready.
Yep. One would hope that's how this is going to work out. So, general consensus of our this esteemed panel then is that the dock workers union definitely shit in their rice bowls.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
That's pretty much where we're at here. Okay, good enough. Or their hats or whatever other metaphor you want to use. All right, let's
Shit.
move on to.
Your hat. They
Yeah.
shit in your hat.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I can. Yep, exactly.
That's the next link to the next section on your program.
There
Yeah.
you have it.
Swords of Iron.
Yeah.
Swords of Iron.
Yep. So on that happy note, we're going to go on to a serious subject now that has nothing to do with pumpkin spice panties and talk about Israel. Let's see. Trainwreck, can you help me out with our videos here? Where should I be?
Oh, hang on here just a second. Well, I think the first one
Just give me a
isn't
scene
the
number.
first one's not a video. The first one, let's if
Okay,
we
let's
just
start with that then. Yeah.
go there.
Okay.
know.
All right. Somebody want to explain what that is?
That's Nasrallah that the Israelis took out last Monday. But before we start, I'd like to take a moment and wish all my Jewish brethren, Nomad included, a Shana Tova, because
Yep.
it's the
Toda.
Jewish New Year.
Yep.
Yes.
Well,
Most definitely.
I didn't want to
Happy New
let
Year.
that get away. So anyway, yeah, this is the dirt bag that they took out with the bunker buster. They just kept dropping them into the same hole. That's how they ended up getting them.
Wasn't it like 250 of them or something? There was a whole bunch.
Yeah, they just kept putting them down the same hole because he was like 6 stories underground. You
Yeah.
know?
No, I had
65
heard.
feet, 65 feet.
No, I had heard that he actually died of suffocation. Is there any truth to that rumor, or because he was trapped underneath there, or did he get turned into pink mist at some point?
Honestly, I don't care once he's dead.
Oh, I don't either, but I was just curious.
I mean, I'm sorry. That's just how it
No, no.
is.
Yeah.
No, but
What are you
I know
apologizing for?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
I know.
I mean, it's the equivalent of giving a guy on death row, giving him, why the hell when they give a guy on death row a lethal injection, but they put a swab on him to make sure he doesn't get infected? He's about to fucking
Yeah.
die in minutes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's like buy me a blow dryer. A wonderful idea, but a complete waste of damn time. But thank you. Sorry, I digress. Move on, Fog. I'm shutting up.
I got a question for you. I heard that the Israelis have a term. They don't get even. They take it one step above that. I heard that there was a term for that. But basically, it just means we're not going to make things even. It's not going to be proportional. It's going to be just the opposite of that. And that's been kind of the Israelis. It's what I heard on the news. The Israelis have this idea that it's, when they come after you, it's not going to be proportional. It's going to be way more than that, and there's a term for it.
I'm going to give you the answer right now. I'm pulling it from the back of my hat. Do you know what this is?
Mm-hmm.
It says in Hebrew, it means in English, it means judgment coming. Judgment
Yeah.
1.
Yeah, and it is.
Every one of us had one of them on.
Yeah.
So every time you saw something, you ended up saying judge, jury, and execution.
Executioner.
Yeah.
And that's what that is.
Yeah.
I love when he spoke at the UN, and he said there is no place that you can hide,
Yeah.
or something to
Yeah.
that effect, right?
That-
Yeah.
A lot. I know. I wait until we're in discussion because I don't want to say too much and preempt stuff. But anyway,
Let me say this: the Israelis are very patient. They had those pages and those cell phones and those portable radios for years. They were smuggled into the country. Nobody ever knew about them. And they sat on them and they waited for the right moment.
Yeah.
And to give an example of how their patience works, just go back and look at Munich. It took them years.
Yeah, they hunted them all down.
Golda Meir, who was actually born in this country here.
correct.
She gave the orders and they executed the orders. It took them years, but they got them all. And just like that, they're going to finish this job.
Yes.
May not be overnight, but we're going to finish the job.
Simon Wiesenthal, who was the Nazi hunter and
Bingo.
World War II.
Good example.
There's the example for you,
Yep.
right? He had people all over the world, and he took years. How many of those animals were picked up in their 80s and 90s years of age, having been camp guards in different of the concentration camps, and we got the bastards, every single one of them.
Had a half a dozen of them yanked out of my backyard. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
So this picture was taken the day, I guess, that they were planning the potential ground war into Lebanon. That's where this from that a news article that was talking about that. Of course, it had to have been after the fact, but before the ground war. So they killed him, and then of course the ground war.
Man, his speech at the
You probably can't see this picture now. I don't know.
kind of.
Is that you?
That's
No,
how
that's
close.
him.
That's how close. That's how close he gets involved in things.
Yeah.
Bibi Netanyahu's brother Yanni was killed, so this is very personal to him and his family. And I know people who are connected to him, and it's very personal. And so, a measured response, as Rennie has says, by non-Israelis or non-Jewish community is not understood.
Yeah.
You have a biblical, pardon it, or even a Talmud or a Torah. You have an ancient philosophy, which is, if from the Islamic point of view, they'll call it, mujahideen, warriors, or jihadists, right? There's an equivalent in the Jewish faith where you have absolutely confidence in everything being okay. So if you have to suffer and be annihilated in order for a temple or something else to be rebuilt, there's a I'm going to drop something on you later on, but I'm telling you what I'm saying is that the normal standards that you can apply on every other conflict does not apply in this response. I'm telling you now.
That's correct.
It is going to be
Biblical.
It is going to be stupendous and so out of the box, you won't believe it.
Well, somebody was going back and they basically did a timeline of all the attacks that Hezbollah and Hamas have created. And every time they do it, then they attack Israel, and then they say, oh, wait, ceasefire. And now it's come to a point where I think the Israelis have said, no more, we're going to stomp this completely
Rennie's
out.
going to say something now. Rennie's building. I can see Rennie building up. He's going to burst.
I carry a Talmud with me in my vest all the time.
There you go, brother. I'm with you.
Yeah, whether I'm over there or here at work, I always got it tucked inside my vest.
Do you know? I'm sorry, Fog. I don't want to be preempting what the plan
you're
is, and
good. You're good. No.
likewise as well. If
Doesn't
I can
matter.
just say this to you, I spoke to somebody just right now in Tel Aviv. It's 04:10 in the morning, and it is primarily waiting. It is a happy time. Israelis are very resilient. We're very drilled. We're very much practiced and used to what we call fauda, which is chaos.
Right.
So there's order in chaos. And so the mistake that these guys have made is not going to be felt directly on the first response. It's what you don't see, like an iceberg, is what you need to worry about. That's why Nasrallah was hiding underground, because he knew if he puts his head above the wall, that's it. Interesting, you've heard nothing about Sinwar, that the Palestinian Gaza guy. You heard nothing about him. He's gone. Sinwar is gone. They haven't heard anything about him, right? But this guy, going back, what I'm saying is this here. The other aspect of the Israeli response is something that is now worrying America, the American military and the American intel. The gloves are off. Israel feels abandoned. That means it is no longer restrained by the protocols and gentleman's agreement that was once put in place when the Camp David Accord was signed, and you have a gentleman's agreement about how should something happen, how we would respond in kind. The Israelis now feel since October 7 that they've been on their own, and you've been told to respond moderately. Don't overdo it, guys, because we want you to have peace in the play. The gloves are off. The gloves are off. I'm telling you now, what's going to happen is a generation of these enemies is going to be wiped out. I mean, a generation. So they can't breed, propagate, or in any way support this. And successive administrations in the States have allowed the foot to be taken off the neck on the enemies of Israel. Israel has said, no more. We're not waiting anymore. Spoke to somebody today, and they said that within military circles on a medium level, working down to the company level, they've been told by senior command that when we strike, nothing is to survive. Nothing is to survive. The quote given, the quote given was, "You have to feed a prisoner. We don't need to feed anybody."
Right.
Yeah.
That's telling. Right. That's telling, because the rules of engagement that Israeli IDF have operated on is the strictest in the world. Now the gloves are off. So
let me just add something to what you said, brother. America has a lot of important allies, right? But we have two that I think are super special, right? One is British and the other is Israel. We should be the other side of that, right? We're spending all this money on fucking Ukraine, right? Fuck that. Why aren't we, we need to be supporting Israel way more than we are.
But if the British government doesn't get their shit together, though, they're going to get taken off this list, because their government is a fucking mess right now. And it's it's almost time for a new crusade here in and Britain's going to have to get on board if they want to play in that arena. Rennie?
That's why I hit the peak. Fucking right British off. They're fucking run by the Muslims.
Yep.
I agree.
Their government has fallen.
Yeah. The Brits don't matter. The Brits don't matter anymore. The Brits don't matter anymore. They don't. They're irrelevant.
Sad but true. Okay, we got some more videos here. I think where do we want to go to next? Let's take a look at these. Maybe to give some context. All right, let's see here. Give me just a minute, folks. Let's see what we got going.
Where have you been kind of focused and hearing on what would...
If our seaports go on strike. The strike is set for...
Well, that didn't work very well.
Okay.
All right.
Do you feel whole?
All right, never mind that.
Okay. No,
Stand by.
it's okay.
I'm going to go back here. All right, we're just going to continue our discussion about Israel.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody pretty much did. All right, so we agree that Britain has fallen. What about the rest of Europe? Why? I don't understand. Maybe you and Rennie both can answer this question for me because you're a lot more involved in. I'll say to begin with, I'm Christian. I'm not Jewish, but I 100% support everything that Israel is doing. Because it's the right thing to do. Okay. Has nothing. It's not a religious component for me. It's what's right. What they're doing is right, and throughout history, it's been the right thing to do. Some people might look at that with askance, but my opinion of that is fuck them. I really don't give a shit what they think about it. What about the rest of Europe? Why is there so much anti-Semitism throughout the world right now? What is causing this? Either one of you guys.
It's the
Well,
popular thing to do.
Yes.
Israel has a right to defend itself, and it goes against what's popular right now. People don't like Jews, and sadly, that's the way it is.
Because not everybody fits into that boat. Because I look at you guys, just like your.
I'd say 80% of America fits into that boat.
But
I can bring on all my Jewish friends that are doctors, lawyers, and everything else, and they're going to tell you the same thing.
But I would like to say that I don't think our government has ever done anything because it's right or wrong, good or evil. I think we do things because the people in power, our leadership believes it's in our interest to do or not do something. I simply don't believe they have the moral compass to decide what's good or what's right and wrong.
They don't. No.
You've just Trainwreck. You just said something significant. You've said everything you say is significant. Don't get me wrong. I'm not being in any way disingenuous to you.
I've been saying all right.
Well, I tell you now.
I've been trying to say something right all night.
You've been doing. You're a good man, buddy. You are a good man, right? Here's the thing: morals have changed, values have changed, agendas have changed, the world has changed. So the point is, the old playbook, what was once a national interest 5 years ago, no longer exists. Boundaries are just a line on a map right now. When you have a sizable, significant portion of the U.S. population saying they don't believe in borders, right? And that's within our own homeland. How do you think they're going to have an interest about something overseas? Second thing is, the world is now virtual. It's cyber. You can talk to anybody, anywhere. We're doing it right now. We're talking to people right now that we don't even see or know, but they still have an opinion on what we can do. We can be tapped into anywhere virtually. So the global village is reality. But the global village also breeds global village idiots. And that's what we've got. So we've got people and a population which has become addicted to social media, not to fact, but to entertainment. So if something doesn't entertain you, it's not newsworthy. When in the last election, people got their news from Saturday Night Live, being classed and cited as a source in college papers, right? God help us. But here we go. Israel no longer feels it's got the support of the US. So as regards the rest of the world not hating anything that's unpopular or restrictive or doesn't fit into a proper pronoun right now is unpopular. It's been, as Reddy has said, it's been popular since time began to hate Jewish people because it is just the way it has been. So there's no victimhood amongst the Jewish community or diaspora. Everybody else has their hand out, either looking for reparations or recognition or looking for some sort of special status. Jewish people do not ask for that. They just want to be left the hell alone to do what they need to do. And that's as simple as that.
I just wanted to give an example of what I was talking about before. We don't do anything based on right or wrong, good or evil. We do things that leadership feels is in our interest. To give you an example, during the 80s, we sent Rumsfeld over to deal with and make deals with Saddam Hussein. That guy was a fucking turd then, and he's a turd. Well, he was a turd when we killed him, right? But somebody felt it was in our interest, right? Not right or wrong, good or evil, interest. And then later on, we decided he wasn't in our interest anymore. And of course, he was killed, right? So that's what I mean. I don't think that our leadership has a moral compass at all.
No, and that can be said about governments in general.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Everywhere. It doesn't make any difference. Throughout time immemorial.
Yeah.
Do you think Genghis Khan gave a shit about the morals of anything? It's kind of like a lion doesn't concern itself with the feelings of sheep.
How many of these people protesting in colleges will be prepared to march in their rainbow flag right down Main Street in one of these Arab countries?
Yeah, none.
Have
Zero.
a hatred of it. That's the first thing. Second thing is, do you think if you have, I tell you now, and I've seen this, if I take an 18-year-old from Tel Aviv in Israel and an 18-year-old from anywhere in the US, there's such a difference. That 18-year-old has just finished high school, is prepared to do 2 or 3 years national service, whereas everybody else serves themselves, right? So you have an arrogance and snobbery culturally. If you're prepared to put a uniform on and defend what you believe in, you have, to me, credibility and integrity and a fucking backbone. Whereas if you're going to put up and change and try to change the colors of the US flag, I've never seen a rainbow flag over a casket of somebody come back from Afghanistan or from Iraq. But sure as hell, this is what the country's gone to. So the values internally, politics doesn't operate in a vacuum. It's supported by different things. Whereas Israel is a concept as much as a country. And so it has had to fight for oxygen since it began. It began way before 1948. It began way back before there was even countries that have an opinion about it now were even there. So from the point and the question you asked, Val, why do people have so much anti-Semitism towards Jews and the country and what it represents? It represents everything that everybody else has failed to have. A collective strength, a firm belief, resolute belief in a God, and an absolute, affirmed, resolute, steadfast, steel rod belief that they are not just a chosen people. That may be arrogant in itself to some people, but they have the right to be where they are. Yeah. And that's as simple as that. No other country has that. No other country has that.
At least you guys believe in something. People in our country, they don't fucking believe in anything, or they're so scattered nobody can come together.
Yeah, Rennie, you're up next.
So 2 points. America's on the path of destruction. They're following the blueprint set out by the Roman Empire. That's number one. Number two, a point that Nomad was just talking about. I remember being up on the Golan Heights with a guy named David Levy. He was Sharon's chief of staff, right? And while we're up there, the Israeli jets, poof, 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 coming overhead, flying back. He goes, Rainey, what do you see? I go, fighter jets. He goes, no, you're looking at 18-year-olds with $18 million toys. So there you go.
Do you know the nearest
18 to 80, everybody does something.
Yes. The nearest time that America was as it was, the nearest point I can see as a naturalized citizen to where the US has ever been when it was, there's 2 points, 3 maybe, 3 times in modern American history where people of America became almost Israeli-like in their belief for self-determination and existence. 1776, December 7, 1941, and September 11.
Yeah.
They're the 3 times in this country's history that everything unified around itself. Even Pearl Harbor, right? Nobody said it was possible. Nobody said it was there. There was an arrogance. The same mistakes of December 7, 1941, ironically, October 7 last year, the chiefs of the military, the chiefs of Intel, the people who should know, work a fucking Monday to Friday woke working week. They don't take phone calls after 12 o'clock on a Friday. So when Intel came in about impending attack on October 7, where were they? In fucking bed or sipping wine, watching the Mediterranean in a cafe on the beachfront in Tel Aviv. In December 7, 1941, where was the top brass? Playing golf in Hawaii. Where were they? In DC. They were at home. Because somebody else beneath them had to do the job because they were it. We have a social status here which allows the enemies of our country and Israel, which are both the same thing, by the way, to operate. So going back to Trainwreck's point about values, the reasons why we look, our national interests have changed because we have no national interest anymore. We have lost our pedigree as a world power. And when that erodes from within, you can't have a value. You can't have a value overseas. You ask the average Israeli right now when they think of America, broken is the word I heard this afternoon. Broken. You're no good to us. We're on our own. We are on our own. That's what somebody taught me. Crying on a phone this afternoon because their son, who just turned 18, is on his way to fucking Lebanon. And you mentioned the Golan Heights and the Bekaa Valley.
Yeah.
My God, how
Been
history
there,
should
been
keep
all
again.
of them, yeah.
It repeats. Yeah. All right, fellas, we're coming
Sorry.
up on about 30 minutes over. No, you are correct. I think so the general consensus to this question then is that Israel is doing exactly what they need to do. They need to be left alone so they can finish the job. And if the rest of the world doesn't like it, well, fuck them and the syphilitic donkey they rode in on.
There you
It's
go.
pretty much the bottom line. Everybody in agreement on that?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Been an interesting conversation this evening. We had a few technical difficulties, but nothing major. So we answered all of our questions. Hopefully we entertained and educated as we usually do. So we're going to go ahead and wander on out here. So Trainwreck, you want to go ahead and say your goodbyes? Your good nights or whatever?
Yeah. Again, I appreciate getting on here, being able to talk to you guys. I love the conversation, going back and forth, the debate, being forced to support whatever idea I have, and maybe I survive, maybe I don't, but I love that. It's never mean spirited, or at least it shouldn't be. But don't forget to hit the like button, comment, and I forget the other ones.
Yeah, close enough. Rennie, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, my brothers. I love you all. People, keep some of us in your thoughts and prayers. People are going to be in bad places in short periods of time. Shout out to I-12GIA Peace Mind Training, and thank you for tuning in if you tuned in and listening to us.
Nomad.
Thank you very much for giving the opportunity to have a voice again. Apologies if my voice is booming over everybody else. I don't mean to be, just passionate. I'm sorry. But I tell you this, right? This election and this time in world history, we've never seen the like of it. And people would say that's just a cliche. We have never seen the like of it, because what's at stake right now is civilization itself. And I can't say that any stronger. So pray that things work out. Whatever God you believe in, whatever fluffy cloud you belong to, whatever pronoun you go by, at least consider that right now somebody somewhere is worse off than you, and be thankful for what you have.
Most definitely.
I want to say one thing before you finish up, Fog, and that is, if there's anybody that's in Israel that happens to see this, I just want you to know that there are Americans that think we should be supporting you, right? You're not alone, right? It might seem that way, but I think that there's a lot of us.
Okay. Okay, good. October 7th is coming up in a few days. There are still hostages that I'm hoping are alive, but that's looking less and less likely every day. Let's put a stop to this nonsense. Another issue that I want to kind of remind everybody of is on the 3rd and 4th of October, there were a bunch of very brave folks from 10th Mountain and other assorted military agencies going through the Mogadishu Mile. Okay, another horrific time in American history.
The Mog. God
and
bless
so
the Mog.
In Somalia. Who was president back then anyway? Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton.
What a wonderful
moron.
specimen. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're familiar with the Mogadishu Mile, it's still every day. It's 1993. So pretty much going on. There's the Mog Run. Okay. I'm probably I may run it this year. I'll probably more likely crawl it. But actually, at this point, I'm probably just going to drive it. But I do have my T-shirt, though. So keep that in mind for the Mog Mile, and remember those folks. Folks with your heart. Okay, like, subscribe if you enjoyed what we did tonight. We do have a call-in number, as you can see, running around down there. That's really pretty much it for this evening. Now, for the next week, we've decided that we're going to go ahead and stay with current events, I think, for our oncoming continuing shows up through the election, because there's so much going on. And as our little friend over there, the Black Swan, keeps popping up, every day there's a new Black Swan event. There's a lot of stuff we didn't cover tonight. Verizon crashed yesterday. Verizon crashed. Yeah, I'm not worried about that right now. Verizon crashed yesterday.
Bank of America crashed today.
Yes, it did. Verizon crashed. Bank of BAC went down for a long time. Everybody's deposits just kind of disappeared, and that's still not backed up yet. So there's all kinds of shit going on, which leads me back to the point I was trying to make there. Every day is something. So we're going to continue on with current events and the election cycles and see what's happening next. Plus, something I want to get into next week, too, for a little more in-depth is there a need for a new crusade? Does the world need a new crusade? And if so, what would that look like? So you guys kind of give that some thought, if you wouldn't mind. And I would greatly appreciate it. I know I can see the smoke coming out of your ears already down there, buddy. But that's the point. Again, we entertain and we educate here at Real Talk with the I-12 Group intelligence analysts. So on that happy note, folks, I'm going to go ahead and say goodnight. And thanks for sticking around with us for the extra 35 minutes. Keep the ones that you love close. Give them a great big hug and prepare to self-rescue. And good night, folks. See you next time.